Hello, hello.
There we go. So, Jared, you're gonna go.
I can't hear anything.
Oh,
What is this?
I look at you. I just see the movie that nice username.
Guys, I can't hear anything. I don't know what's going on.
yeah, the meme.
Skype changed from the last time I used that.
This is how Skype always is, though.
Speakers.
I'll get these guys' cameras put on as soon as we get Jared back. He's switching computers quick.
Cool. I got tea brewing.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
All right, cool. We're just waiting for Jared to get back, and then I'll throw your cameras up on the screen. Because if I do it beforehand, they'll resize and it'll get all wonky.
Cool.
Okie
Cool. Cool.
Let me tweet some. There it is.
All right. I guess Jared doesn't have a camera because he doesn't have it set up besides for his streaming computer. So, rip.
I don't see your face moving. Is that how it's supposed to be?
My face should be moving. I do have
Yeah,
a
well, it's not.
I do have
You're
a
a very
camera.
good ventriloquist.
Okay. I have two cameras, so you should be able to see me. I don't know. That's weird. Because I see it moving on my end.
I see it moving on the stream, but not here on Skype.
Rip.
Should I hang up and call again?
Yeah, try that.
Hey.
That wasn't hard to figure out, you liar.
Yeah, now I realized I'm like, oh wait, actually, I can do this really easily. So.
Oh, wait. I was like, he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out.
Oh, there we go. Moving camera.
All right, perfect.
Look at that.
Oh man.
All right. Now I'll throw you guys' pictures in, and then we'll...
I don't see their pictures. Where are they?
Yeah, I guess.
Skype is so fucking weird. Look at this. It's like going half screen now. All I see is a green background over here on the right.
Are you using the new version of Skype?
I don't know. I think I am.
Because the new version
It's like all dark.
It's garbage.
You mean it's worse than original Skype?
Like, it's better to use like the older version of it than their most newest version. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive, I know. I have used Discord chat, but the problem with that video capture system is it's not quite right.
They've only just launched it,
Yeah,
so
I'm giving
it's
them
like
time.
give them a bit of time. I'm sure ittle be way better than Skype, but for
Discord
now,
is way better than Skype already.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Just as
Smoke
like,
signals are better than Skype. We could do a smoke signal based fucking BlizzCon show and it would go smoother.
Dude, I would do that. I would do that. All right, and we just need to add in Senor CatZ and we'll be good to go.
How are you guys doing, CatZ? I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Oh, CatZ, now we can't hear you.
I can't hear him.
Unmute your mic.
Oh shit.
There you
Okay.
go.
I was muted.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks.
Thank you.
You saw the Artosis.
The meme.
.mov.
Oh
was
my
pretty
god,
good.
it's
That was-
so funny.
Dude.
It's so funny.
Actually,
I was dying.
as the show was getting started, I actually played that song to kind of like intro the show. So
Nice.
that was a good video. I had to look up the song because the song was super catchy too.
It was.
So I had to look that up. That was good. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me and making the time to be here. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm glad that someone is putting together a BlizzCon preview show.
Right.
And I have actually held off from looking at the groups,
Oh,
the finalized groups, so I can have some real reactions, some
nice.
genuine reactions here today.
these will all be genuine. All be genuine. Well, first, before we just get started, I wanted to to get your guys' general.
Are we live right now?
Yeah, we are live.
doing?
Yep. You can eat though; it's fine. As you guys know, I'm the king of casual. Like, so it's cool. Like, I'm drinking whiskey. Like, we're across like 4 fucking time zones. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it doesn't matter. Like, as long as we're doing it right and we're having fun, that's all I care about.
Yeah. Well, your name is Toast, so I kind of got that.
Yeah.
I'm just catching up on this.
Great show.
Oh, I just finally actually watched that Artosis video.
Oh,
That's, wow.
Oh, you didn't watch it before?
No, I didn't click on it. I saw it and I was like on my phone and like didn't load or something, and I just like didn't look at it. But wow, that is a piece of art right there.
It's
Joey
really
he's a gift to the StarCraft scene.
He is. I learned something new from that thread. Apparently, that little fucking thing on top of the science whistle has to point at what it's casting spells on. I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
I played like 40,000 hours of StarCraft 1, and I did not know that. Can you, like... Oh my god.
Well, to your defense, could you actually see the little thing before remastered?
Well, now I can't stop looking at it. Now that I know that, I'm like looking at it, I'm like trying to aim like where I have it point, like I click it, my vessel towards what I'm going to cast a spell on. I'm losing more vessels. It's bad.
Yeah, so we will get going. So for everyone that's watching and already giving me shit, so Artosis' video is going to be bigger than everyone's because this technically isn't like a 5-person layout. It's meant for 4 people, and so his is just meant for like info and shit to go over. So his will just be a little bit wider. So stop fucking complaining about it.
Bow down to our Artosis overlord.
Yeah, he deserves to be bigger than all of us. Okay, so like that's just how it's going to be.
There we go.
But no, okay. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to talk about with you guys is, are you surprised to see any of the people going? Anyone attending? Like, are there any names that are just like, how in the hell did this happen?
I think it's easier to be surprised that people not attending than people attending, because it's it happens throughout such a long span of time that you pretty much like are kept in the loop about whose chances are good. But yeah, I don't know. Like we're obviously missing beyond SOS, Maru maybe are the biggest surprises.
Yeah. Like no zest. It's classic not making it is quietly a surprise. Everyone underrates him, but this guy like always nails it when he goes.
Absolutely.
So there's definitely like a big list, and I think Bjorn probably the big heartbreaker for everyone, not even having a chance to make it at the Super Tournament was like, oh man.
Right. Do you think SOS was kind of like the biggest? How do I want to put it? Not upset, I guess, because he had the chance, right? Like he was so close. Like he was so close to getting in there, and then Rogue, kind of snatching it out from under him.
Well, I was actually like he plays like shit half the year is what it feels like. Like half of the tournaments he's in, he just bombs out of immediately, and then everyone starts to really underestimate him. It's like all the other Koreans at GSL vs. World were talking shit on him, and then from there he started just killing everybody. He's just like, okay, I'm back. That's it. And like this, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's been 5 World Championships since it became official. He won 2, and the other 3 he got the spot right below qualification.
Yeah. Like
17th that first year, and then like 9th in Korea last year, and now 9th in Korea again. And it's like, what kind of a weird, what is happening here with this?
I had a theory that's like only when SOS is starting to run low on money does he actually try, and the rest of the time he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. All these guys kind of fool around with it. I've got enough money. So, because that's what it seems like, right? Like anytime it's like, all right, like go a couple years, a year and a half or so, it's like, all right, time to turn it back on. I gotta refill the bank account. But yeah, no, like it's kind of unfortunate, that he plays like that. But good for Rogue though for sneaking in.
I think it's like part of the mystery of like the cheesy players as well. There's always like the for me as someone who I think started out as a much more macro player, I always look at SOS and in his interviews and stuff, and I feel like I don't fully understand him as a person. So I don't know. I think there's always it's like he's so volatile, but it's so interesting.
We're here to speculate, so
I think if Rogue plays as well as he did in Shanghai and in Super Tournament, man, that is like I think it would be an absolute crime for Rogue to not be at BlizzCon with how well he's been playing recently. Like I think Rogue is like the new Zerg hope, and he's head and shoulders like above Dark and stuff right now. So I think a lot of the Zerg fans are really happy that Rogue made it through.
Yeah, and it's been a long time coming too. Like he's always been for the last few years, he's always been at the top of the ladder. Like everyone's always talked about Rogue and how good he is privately, but he doesn't really, he hadn't been performing at actual tournaments, and now he is, and that's fucking scary.
Yeah, he's had a lot of ups and downs. Like back when Sulky was number one Zerg, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was coming up. Like he was the qualifier Zerg. Like he'd get to the end of every single qualifier for every event, and even made I Am Katowice like many years ago. And it was, I don't know. I've been kind of keeping my eye on him since then, but the way he's playing right now, with the ladder, the Shanghai Super Tournament, even the GSLs where he didn't win, a lot of these matches, like you're going to Game 5 against, the guy who wins or the guy who gets second place, and losing because of one hold position Ling, for instance, against Sue. And it's like, well, in a slightly alternate timeline where, we don't even have Lizard Tongues, Rogue is probably a 2-time GSL champion this year as well. It's like kind of crazy. And I think that he has quietly been like around innovation level for months now.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's get started. Let's dig in. We'll start with, of course, Group A, and that will be Stats, Special, TY, and Snoot. Dan, let's start with you. What are your first impressions?
Oh my God! Well, I'm just looking at these groups for the first time right this second, but oh my God, look at these groups. That group I think is actually. Hold on, let me just look over. That's the hardest group to call, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest group to call right there. I think all 4 of those players can get out of that group absolutely. Like, obviously, the boring and standard answer is like TY and Stats just wreck it. But TY is a little bit up and down, even though I think when he's playing, when he's on his game, I think he's the best in the world. It seems like, but he's up and down. And obviously, Stats is unbelievably powerful. Mm-hmm. But he actually has a lot of holes in his PvT, to be honest. Like he crushes people like Byun, but then he loses against people like TY. He's just like, for instance, you just make Liberators against him. So if these guys like use that, like if Special can reel that in and not be too aggressive against him, I could see him taking him out. And then like just based on like Snoot's been playing well, plus the maps are really big right now and quite good for Zerg. So just looking at this, that's a crazy group right there. Yeah. That's the best group. Yeah. Should have started with Group D. We're not. That's crazy. I don't know who's going to come out of that. The safe bet is the Koreans, but Special and Snoot have shown time and again that they are up at that level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some people might discredit Snoot. I think just because last year his performance at Blizzcon wasn't quite as stellar as I think a lot of people were expecting from him, and I know Snoot was quite disappointed with how he played last year. But his ZVT's been looking great. So with 2 Terrans in the group, obviously, Snoot is going to be facing TY first as well. So I think more than anything, it comes down to where Snoot, Zerg versus Terran is. And if we think about the ZVT meta, and we're going to have a chance to talk about that a lot more with Group D as well, there's a lot of, I think, indecisiveness from Terran players in terms of what is the correct way to play against the Hydra meta. Everyone's like, are we doing bio-tank pushes? Are we going mech? With the way Rogue's been kind of shutting mech down a bit lately, it's not like it's been one-sided, but I feel like a lot of the Terrans are kind of umming and ahhing. And I think no matter what, if you think of a Zerg who's going to be good against mech and shut it down hardcore, you're going to think of Snoot. We saw the Shoutcraft game where he was all over innovation with some very different anti-mech ultralist queen play. So I don't know. I think Snoot, yeah, he definitely has a good shot, especially if Special and TY are sticking to mech play.
Yeah, I guess the thing for me about Snoot is I think he's a brilliant player. He's a more formula-oriented player as I perceive it, where he basically just develops his style, and he's a macro player, and that's what he is, right? And that's kind of the scary thing going into this kind of tournament for me, for Snoot, because people have time to prepare for him, have time to adapt to him. Now the question, and even for the Koreans, is whether they have anyone that they can practice against that will do the shit that Snoot does as well as Snoot does. But I think that's what I attribute his lack of success, say, at the last BlizzCon, is people get time to actually prepare for Snoot. Right now, if he breaks and then makes it out of the groups, I think he's a real force to be reckoned with, because his style is rock solid, and then you have no time to prepare for it, right? Or little time for that matter. As far as TY and Special, it's kind of weird because Special is obviously a fantastic Terran, but he also reveres TY. Like, TY is kind of his sensei, so there might be some mental blocks there. And yeah, TY and Stats, I don't know, depends on what kind of form they show in, but I think the group's difficult to call as well. I think it's a bit of a toss-up. I really just hope that Snoot mixes it up, brings in some all-ins or some different play.
I want to mention too, like, I think that TY is basically the worst opponent for Snoot that he could ever have to open with. Because TY is the master of positional play with Ghosts late game if he chooses not to go mech. And I think that, like, literally you were talking about, can they find anyone to practice against that plays like Snoot as well as Snoot? The opposite of that ×2 is how TY plays Ghosts late game and maneuvers around the map. Like, a lot of Snoot's games, right, he'll have things like Broodlords or Ultralisks or something against Terran to finish him off. TY is just going to snipe everything down, and it's like Innovation doesn't do it as well as TY. Beyond doesn't do it as well as TY. Maru doesn't do it as well as TY. No one does, and I think that like, for Foreigner Zergs, I think that TY is like the sickest killer if he plays that style. And I know, like, the maps are kind of big and people are having a hard time by playing Bio and transitioning into Ghost correctly, but like, if he comes with that, there's no one to practice against to prepare for that, I feel like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sure. So one thing I want to bring up about these groups, so obviously we talked about, like, Special and TY's connection, right? Where, like, Special is kind of like, TY's, he looks up to him, right? Like, he kind of copies his play style, like, that's who he looks up to. So, like, we'll say that kind of plays into that because they kind of know how each other play, right? So that kind of comes into it. But the other thing is with Stats and Special, I looked it up, and this last year that they've played each other, Stats has won every time, but it's always been like in a 3-2. So they've always been very close games. So I think, especially if Special has really been grinding and has really been practicing and he's on top of his game, he could definitely upset and win that first set and actually be out, be in that top position. And then having Stats playing TY if he beats Snoot. Do you think that those two ideas that I just said will play into this at all?
Well, I think that, like I was talking about, like, Stats really does. He's so good and so solid and always steady and stuff in his play. And people make mistakes in StarCraft, so he ends up winning. But, like, if Specials really, really prepares, like, very Liberator-heavy styles, like slower macro styles against Stats, I can absolutely see him taking him down. Like, when you see the games that he loses against Stats, he's being too aggressive, and Stats is just able to gobble up enough of his harassments that over time Stats will just kill his army. That's like every game that I've seen between them. That's how it goes, right? Like, if Special waits a little bit longer to move out, he wins. If he attacks too quickly, harasses too much, Stats wins. So, I mean, I can see Special making like a really big splash here, but every now and then he just has like a bad day, right?
Yeah, like, Montreal was not his best.
Yeah. So,
okay.
If I had to bet, I'd always struggle with betting on Special versus Protoss, because you speak to the guy and there is pro gamers downplay their skill sometimes, but Special versus Protoss, you're never going to hear someone whine more about a matchup and be so convinced they stand no chance against top Protoss players. But then he always comes out and has like the sickest matches. So I'm always just like, you make it hard for me to believe in you by the things you say, but then you play these really close, sick matches with Neeb in the WCS circuit all the time. He's capable of great things, but yeah, I definitely I feel like Special needs to have a really good day and Stats needs to maybe be slightly off, and then he could definitely take it. But I would definitely bet on Stats as being the big favorite in that match.
Right.
I'm with Artosis in that I feel like Stats is labeled correctly as like a defense god, and rightly so, because the Terran players in Korea have been historically like so aggressive and so in your face the entire StarCraft 2 life. So I also think that like people should try to play around their opponent's weaknesses and strengths, and the strength of stats that you want to avoid is he's just not gonna fucking take from multi-prong harassment like other Protoses would.
Right.
So you avoid that, you play to other strengths, and then I think he stands a chance.
Yeah, like just to beat a dead horse a little bit more, if you go back in time a little bit, like when he played against Bjorn in GSL, I was saying before the game, like, this is what's going to happen. Bjorn's going to attack too much stats, going to gobble him up. And then he crushes Bjorn 2-0. And then he plays no-name Terran number 17, I don't even remember who it was. I think it might have been Keen or something. The kid just sits there and makes a bunch of Liberators on 3 or 4 bases, then moves out and kills stats. And it's like, if you just watch all of his PBTs, this pattern just keeps coming. Like, he plays so safe that if you are aggressive, he will beat you. And then otherwise, he can have a hard time. Like, it's a game. It's not like he just dies because you make Liberators or something. But, like, if you go towards that very macro-focused area. So he's definitely not unbeatable. And, like, I would even favor TY against him, because TY, I feel like, is the guy a lot of the time who will find that hole and be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to harass you. Okay, cool.
All right. So let's go ahead and obviously like pick your score, or not, pick who's going to get through, and then give me the possible upset. So Dan, go ahead and start.
Well, I think TY is probably most likely to get out of this group. Like, if Snoot beats him, things can go really awry from there. But when I think about it, right, like, he's got a good matchup against Special, because, again, Special kind of, like, looks up to TY too much. He kind of, it's almost like he has a mental block in some ways, even though he's put up some good games against TY in the past. It doesn't feel like he's as much of a killer against TY. If TY doesn't go mech style, I think he's favored against Snoot. And I think that TY is favored against Stats. So, like, even though I could see Snoot taking him out, and the other 2 players possibly, I see TY taking this group down. For the other guys, I think that there's so many different combinations of what can happen. Like, again, Special could take out Stats. Stats you have to favor slightly. You have to favor him slightly against Snoot as well. Like, he's just, I mean, he's Stats. What do you want? He's number 1 WCS Korea. He's like, his base skill level is, he's God tier. He's the best Protoss. But, I mean, I have to be boring and say TY and Stats, but, like, this is the one group where anything could happen. Like, looking at all these groups, even more so than the group with 3 Zergs and Neeb. Right. Like, this is the true group where it's, like, really, really hard to predict.
Okay, that's fair. Jared, you want to go next?
Yeah, it's I think definitely TY and Stats. I mean, I don't want to sound like an echo, so I pretty much agree with everything Dan said. I think Special or Snoot could make it out. It's going to be pretty unlikely for both of them to make it out, just because of the consistency of Stats and TY. There is always that rare time where TY has an off day. I don't see it being in the round of 16 of BlizzCon, maybe in the round of 8. I honestly think Stats and TY are the favorites. I'd give Snoot and Special. Really, it just depends what they bring on the day. I've got so little to add here, man. There's like no analysis of any meaning coming out. I'm just like, yeah. It's so hard to call. That group is really difficult, but I think Stats and TY are the favorites.
Fair. CatZ, what do you think?
I think they're the favorites as well. TY, to add to PiG's point, I think that in the round of 16 especially, he's probably the smartest player in the group, maybe at BlizzCon, so I think he'll prepare, he'll be ready, he'll, do his research. I think he's definitely the favorite to get out of here, out of this group, and then I don't know. I feel like the thing with Snoot is, because he is sort of one-dimensional, but he is so good at his craft. If Snoot shows up and like beats, say Stats the first game, or TY even the first game, like he might just 3-0 them. Like he's a beast like that. So I think it's difficult to call in that regard. And as far as Special goes, I think he's always been a really strong player, but he really doesn't seem to do that great in tournaments, maybe outside of the WCS. So I'm not sure. I hope he shows up. I hope for them to for special on Snoot, but TY first and Stat second is what I'm thinking.
Fair. Yeah, I'd have to say this. Oh, go ahead.
Do you? Oh no, sorry. Continue. I was just gonna say it is. Okay, it is best of 3, right, guys? It says so on Wikipedia. Is it? Oh, I wish it was best of 5. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that would be great if it was best of 5. Okay, so yeah, I was just gonna say, yep, I agree. I think Special has the better chance to upset and get out of the group, but yeah, I think overall, TY Stats. Okay, let's move on to Group B. So we have Sue, Nurchio, Rogue, and Neeb.
Ooh.
So it's actually a pretty tough group.
Ooh. I think I'm most fascinated with this one, with how the obviously ZVZ is really volatile and hardcore, and Sue I think is especially scary in that matchup because I think he's the most aggressive out of those 3 Zergs in Zerg vs Zerg, and he's the one who definitely has shown just a little bit better form than the other guys in Zerg vs Zerg in the past. And of course, the big question after the Super Tournament Finals PvZ with Neeb is Oracles. How are Oracles going to work after watching the way Rogue was dealing with it with a lot of fast Spire play and a lot of tech switches? I feel like Rogue is someone who you're going to be very afraid to just go mass Oracles against. But yeah, it's going to be some very interesting Zerg vs Zerg and ZVP in that group.
Yeah, I think that one thing that that should be noted about this group is that Neeb has an inherent advantage in that he only has to practice the one matchup versus the other players having to practice 2 matchups. I think Nurchio is by far the underdog of the group, and I agree with you in that Sue is very good at aggression, but maybe even predictably so. So my favorite from this group is probably Rogue. To make it.
Yeah, well, I think not only does Rogue win the group, he's winning BlizzCon. I think Rogue is the best player in the world, especially when you take into consideration the map pool that we currently have going on this particular meta. It's I think that as far as Rogue goes, there's a very small list of players that can actually even beat him. And I think it's Innovation can maybe beat Rogue. Maybe Neeb could beat Rogue, although I'm not counting on it. Maybe Hero can beat Rogue, and maybe TY can beat Rogue, and that's about it. I think those are the challengers for Rogue not winning BlizzCon here. I think he's just ludicrously good right now. And now obviously there's
maybe Cyril,
3 weeks. Yeah, I mean possibly ZVZ can go sour occasionally. But I mean Rogue I think without a doubt is the best player right now. He's the one to beat in this meta on these maps. So I'm looking at him taking this group down, and I actually feel like Neeb is going to get out of this group as well. I think it's going to be Rogue 2-1s Neeb, and then Neeb cleans up the rest of the bracket. And I think that's how that'll go. It'll be Neeb takes out Nurchio in the loser match maybe, and then Neeb takes out Sue in the decider possibly. Obviously, it's ZVZ and it's best of 3, so crazy things can happen. Sue could take out Rogue. It's possible in a best of 3 format.
Right.
And that could mess up everything. But I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's hard to give a worse group to Rogue to try to screw him up, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the kid's too good right now.
The one thing that gives me a little bit of pause around Rogue is just in terms of overall winning the tournament, if we can talk about that for a moment, because I agree with the fact that he is just out of this world good right now. But there's a few moments where it's this weird thing I've been thinking about lately, where outside of the guy whose name we don't say anymore, the Voldemort of StarCraft, there haven't been a lot of Zerg champions who have consistently won finals, and especially as they get deeper and deeper in the rounds, I feel like even when there's a Zerg who just seems unstoppable, suddenly they get to a top 4 or a finals, and they start just dropping a lot of free maps. And I think of the first 2 games of the Super Tournament against Hero in the Grand Finals, where I feel like Rogue actually ended up turning the second game around, which is what was kind of so incredible after his 12 pool failed so hard. against the Nexus first. But yeah, it's one of these things where I do feel like sometimes Rogue does sit back a little bit too much. I love it when he mixes in those really weird, specialized, cheeky timings and aggressive builds and doesn't just sit back too much. I think sometimes when you've got someone who plays a very hero style or a very even Sue style of Zerg versus Zerg, where you feel like they're not really trying to play it very safe and they're much more getting on top of their opponent and playing very aggressive. That's the one kind of weakness I see potentially with Rogue, even here in the group stage in a best of 3 format, where maybe if he sits back a little bit too much, he does get surprised by just some very all-in plays. I don't know if that's just me being a little bit superstitious about Zerg players who look really good getting upset, but I feel like just getting surprised by cheesy attacks sometimes catches out these god-tier Zergs.
Well, and I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I think that that's why the best of 3 format, like, this is like a hard group for Sue because of... Are you drinking soju, CatZ?
Hells yeah. It's been in my fridge for ages.
Excellent. All right, having some fun tonight. So, are you drinking brown soju, Toes?
Johnny Walker Black Label, sorry.
So yeah, the best of 3 format, but like, if you look, as we hit best of 5s, I think that everything changes. Like, if you look at how Rogue was doing before, like, he's not known for getting quick Overlord speed a lot. That's Dark that's known for that, right? And he turned that on against Hero partway through the finals. Like, he was getting caught off guard, and he was like, fuck it, I'm going to start getting Overlord speed every game, and I'm going to figure out what you're doing. And I feel like that's the kind of stability. Like, as long as he is confident in being better than his opponent, he will do extra things to scout what they're doing. And I think especially as we hit, like, best of 5s, that's where it's like, well, who is going to be able to catch him off guard with these? I mean, and that's why I named Hero as one of the guys that might be able to take him out, because we saw how close he came still. But really, it's like these best of 3 scenarios that might be able to get him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about players sometimes being one-dimensional, and Rogue is kind of the opposite of that, right? Like he has an ever-expanding bag of tricks. Like, he makes shit as he goes if he has to. So it's gonna be difficult, I think, for anyone. He's willing to adapt to the series in itself, and for that reason, I think that there's something to PiG's point as well, that, you know, if I feel like it's really difficult to be a master of all of these crafts, and I think that Rogue is the player that comes closest to that right now. But in doing that, you don't, you know, when you're experimenting all the time, you don't get the practice and the consistency that you would want against the simpler things sometimes, right? Because where you have a player like Snoot developing his style and doing the same thing every game, he's going to be incredibly efficient at doing exactly that. And Rogue is a little bit more of a free spirit, right? And so I could see that biting him against a player like Sue, who is a mechanics god, who's gonna just like throw actions in your face and try to trade those actions to leverage an advantage. So Sue versus Rogue is, I think, the scariest matchup for Rogue in this group. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Rogue number 1, Neeb number 2. And we kind of haven't touched on Nurture at all.
That's what I was about to say. I'm like, we haven't really talked about Nurture, and like, it's weird to not be talking about Nurture. But I guess recently, what was his result in Montreal? I'm trying to remember how deep Nurture went there.
Well, I guess that's the problem, right?
Yeah,
right.
It's that you don't remember what his result was. I mean, we all know he's a great player in all this, and he's expected to be at Blizzcon. This group doesn't look particularly good for him, in my opinion. I don't ever think of Nurture for being a god of ZVZ. I mean, obviously he's godlike in all matchups, but like, it's not a good group for him. It doesn't feel like he's the best European Zerg at the moment, and if you're not the best European Zerg at the moment, and you're going up against the 2 of the best Korean Zergs,
if not the best 2, right? Like up there with Dark, 2 of the best 3.
Yeah, it's.
I also don't think he didn't go to Korea, did he? All right. Whereas like Alaza, Cyril, Snoot, all of these guys have been training in Korea specifically for this. I think
and those 3 guys,
in the EU
those
scene.
3 guys specifically are kind of Nurture's kryptonite for the last half a year, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah, Nurture just hasn't been putting up the results.
Yeah, I agree.
To answer my question before, Nurture did go down 1-3 to True in the round of 8 of Montreal. Just for anyone in the stream is wondering.
True also beat Zero. I'm not sure if in that same tournament or the prior one though. So yeah, I wouldn't put that much weight on losing to True because he's kind of a wild card.
Oh
but,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really hope Nurture, shows up and prepares. He's a confident guy, and confidence is going to be his best ally here in this group because you have to, like, fuck. If I'm Nurture, I'm shitting my pants, right? I'm like, yeah, okay, like, how can you be confident? But if anyone can be confident and maybe sneak out some wins, it's Nurture. Yeah. Still predicting Nurture 4th of this group.
He has a chance, it's just very slim.
Yeah, I think so.
So it sounds like you guys are pretty much inconsistent all think that Rogue's going to go out number 1, and then Neeb, will likely take that second spot. The one thing I'd like to mention is in our last interview, which was with Sue, he told us, and most Koreans, when we ask them about foreigners, like, yeah, they're okay. They're some of them are pretty good. Sue was taking Neeb very seriously. Like, when I asked him, like, who he was more worried about in this group, he said Neeb was his number 1 fear in this group, not Rogue, Neeb. So he's taking that threat very seriously, which I think is super important. And if he's really practicing for Neeb, then I think he actually does have a shot to get out. So I would actually say it's more likely Rogue Sue at this point, though Neeb could definitely win.
If Neeb has one weakness, because he's such a brilliant player as well, is that he's also, I feel like, a little bit one-dimensional. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Neeb approaching most PVCs in the same fashion. So I hope he throws some curveballs, because it's like you say, like, people like Sue are going to be preparing for Neeb, are going to be trying to figure out how to beat Neeb, how to beat, the whatever style Neeb is playing. I think it's mostly Mass Oracles right now. So
that's actually really interesting. Do you guys mind if we derail quickly and talk about Oracles? How do you feel about that, Toast?
I'm fine with it. Derail away.
Cool. I'm curious because I've been thinking about it, and I didn't really put too much study into it before. I thought it wouldn't last as long as it has, and especially I was listening, of course, to Dan talking during the Rogue and Hero games and some of the other games in the Super Tournament. And I was kind of interested, and I know Paul is someone who really thinks a lot as well about all the different tech switches and kind of what people aren't thinking about and that sort of stuff. So I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts about Oracles. Rogue decided to counter Hero's Mass Oracle play by often going for a fast Spire, and he'd either preempt carriers by going Corruptors to force Void Rays, he'd swap back into Hydras. There was a lot of tech switching, like he'd throw in a random wave of Mutalisks, go back to Hydra Bane, he'd go a small wave of Swarm Hosts and Roaches and be very aggressive, and then go into the Corruptors. Do you guys feel like it's just scouting really heavily and the Zerg can deal with this Mass Oracle style as if they're flexible enough and are using that very flexible Zerg production? Do you think Zerg players have just been a little bit too one-dimensional and I'm just going to make Hydras and Banes and I'm going to attack into your wall of cannons and stasis? What are you guys' thoughts on this?
You want to go first, Dan?
Sure. I don't care. You go ahead.
Okay, so I think that Zergs and how the meta evolves in general is as you've described it, right? So Zergs are like, yo, fucking Hydra Bane, guys, Hydra Bane. Everyone fucking go Hydra Bane, and then everyone's going Hydra Bane, and then Oracles pop up, and you're like, well, what the fuck? Protoss is OP. No, motherfucker, you're just going Hydra Bane against Oracles, right? So that's I think that's the main issue. I think players like Neeb fear Corruptors. I think Corruptors are obviously a good counter and way to deal with Oracles, but you have to think about, I think, all the weaknesses and the strengths of Oracles. Like, Oracles are highly reliant, for example, on the energy they have and the total of activating their ability to actually start using that energy, I think, is an extra burst of energy that they burn, right? So I feel like there are other openings other than say Corruptors. The most obvious, or the first thing that I was trying, was things like Queens and Infestors, because I don't feel like Oracles are the type of unit that scales up well. This obviously gives some control to the Protoss because you're conceding map control and going this, and then they can go for, say, carriers or shit like that. But I haven't seen carriers be as wildly successful as oracles have been, really, as of late. So I feel like if you can get to infestors like of a good number of queens, that's a decent counter. Oracles tend to clump up. Fungal obviously thrives the more units are clumped up. And another way, again, excusing Spire, which is I think that the more common way to approach it is if you go for counterattacks with things like Zerglings. I really like queen drops against oracles, because usually people that are massing oracles are not going like mass Phoenix as well, right? They might have one Phoenix or something like that. So if you show up at their base with like 8 queens and a couple of overlords, you drop those queens, they have to pull back the oracles. They pull back the oracles, they activate all of the oracles, you fucking load your queens again. They're like, well, what the fuck do I do? Like, I've just wasted energy, right? So I think aggression is a really good approach to oracles, and a really good defense to oracles in itself, and also just sitting back and going for things like infestors is really good against oracles. I think the main issue with oracles is it's caught most Zerg players off guard because they were so comfortable with the Hydra Bane.
Yeah, Hydra Bane was like, Hydra Bane came out, Protosses complained that was imbalanced, right? And then Oracles came out, Zerg players complained that's imbalanced. And this is just, I mean, everyone is just kind of fucking lazy. There's always counters that can be found, basically to everything. That's not to say that some things should not eventually be patched occasionally. That is true. But people are basically just... They need to get with it. And so, like, for instance, what CatZ was saying, I've seen some Zergs try to go for, like, Infestor, Queen type stuff. I don't like that as much, because if the Protoss transitions into Charge or Blink, you don't really have enough Fungals, it feels like, to deal with that. They can get super aggressive with that. We saw that as a tiny piece of the meta just for a little bit, and then people stopped going for the Infestors in Korea. But, like, I like what Jared was saying, where... basically, like, if you are shifting your tech a whole bunch, the oracles don't do as well. You go towards Spire, right? You can, if you're gonna go, if you make mutas, right, they have to go Phoenixes. But you can make just a few mutas, or you could just go straight Corruptors if you already know they're making Phoenixes, right? And then you're kind of forcing Void Rays, and it's like, you're forcing these weird things. Can they really go into ground from there? Well, they can, but it's going to take them a little bit longer. You bought yourself a bunch of time, and just continually switching your tech path, I think, is the real way to do this. As long as you're, like, scouting what they're up to, and, like, as a Zerg player, right? Like, you have to scout, you have to know, is he getting Charge or Blink or something like that right now? Is he starting to mass Gateway units? Is he going for Psystorm? Oh, is he switching into carrier tech? And I think that there's absolutely counterplay potential there. Like, we saw Rogue not taking much damage from early Oracles. He spreads his spores a little bit more. He makes a few extra Queens defensively. He gets into his Spire with reasonable speed. He's consistently scouting what his opponent is doing with Speed Overlords and Zerglings running in and all this, forcing the Oracles to go back sometimes for small counterattacks. I mean, he's kind of figured out how to deal with that. And I think that the mass Oracle, like, maybe it'll become something by the time of BlizzCon, which is just still a solid, sturdy opening, but I think that arguments of it being imbalanced are just people being lazy. And the more we complain, the more likely it is to fix our race, and it'll be easy. That's what we want, right? Wait, no, go play the Peace War.
To your point, though, like, switching to Charge slots or Blink even, I don't think it's that easy, because, you know, like, if you're going mass Oracles, you're going, like, 2-3 Stargate Oracle, right? Like, that's already a pretty huge commitment. So if you're actually, like, scouting what they're doing, it's like you can also switch into something else.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and that's the beautiful thing, especially about StarCraft 2, is how both sides, as they continually scout each other, should be shifting their techs just slightly the entire game. And when someone slips up, that's where you can see a victory. And that's where I think Rogue doesn't often slip up. I've seen a few of his games where he does, I feel like when he remaxed with Ultras, instead of making some Broodlords with his Mass Corruptor. That one game, was it Abyssal or something against Hero? I thought for sure he could and should have won that. But, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the game. And I see it on the same side, Protoss is being, very stubborn, sitting there making carriers when they should be making Tempests, for instance. It's like, yes, I know the carrier is a good unit. I know Interceptors cost 5. Come on. But that is, I think, a heavy percentage of the beauty within StarCraft 2 is just the fine dance of countering each other's techs over and over.
And it's what Rogue dances. He dances so beautifully, right? Like he's just such a good reactive Zerg, which is, I think, where the race thrives. That's, I think, what makes him so strong.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just a little prediction is I think we are going to see a little bit more as people do those fancy spy attack switches. We're going to see more Protoss going like 2-3 Stargate Oracle and just back into ground play. As we see a lot of people spending a lot of money on random Mutalisk and Corruptor switches. And we kind of saw a little bit of that in Hero vs. Rogue, but I think it's going to become more and more powerful as the storm off the back of it, rather than Protoss just saying, let's build 5 Stargates and swap between Phoenix, Void Rays, and Carriers off the Mass Oracle, depending on what the Zerg's building. Yeah, I think people are finding, hey, there's a lot more of these weird mixed styles, and I don't know. I just thought it was beautiful watching Hero vs. Rogue. So thanks for sharing your thoughts, guys, and thanks Toast for letting me derail the conversation a little bit there.
No problem, my dude. It was good, healthy combo. So let's move on to Group C, since we all kind of agreed about Group B. So Group C, we have Dark, Kelazur, Hero, and the Laser. So kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say this is an easy group to predict.
Well, Toast is going to be with me here in that Kelazur is obviously going to finish first.
I really do want Diego to wreck everyone. That is true. But I have to put that aside and think logically, and think with my brain and not with my heart.
All right then.
Is Diego in Korea at the moment with Major?
He's in Korea. He's in Korea. Special. Yeah.
Cool.
He's in Korea right now. He's top 25, top 30 Korean Grandmaster, which is, lower than most people in this bracket, obviously. But I think Diego's and I'm sorry for starting with talking about my player and my boy, but
it's okay.
I feel like he's gonna be the most underrated, I guess, player here, and with just reason, right? Like, he was the only foreigner to take a game at GSL versus the World, but generally speaking, his results are usually like, he's very consistent in the WCS, right? He's like top 8, top 4, but that's usually where it stops. He hasn't made a final. He hasn't won a tournament yet, and this is a fucking tough group, obviously. So I think that Kelazur can take down a Laser. I feel like a Laser and Kelazur are two sides to the same coin in different universes. One's a Terran, one's a Zerg, obviously, but they're both very aggressive players who thrive on their aggression, on their mechanics. Even against these Koreans, that's, I think, what they're gonna show, what they're gonna go for. And I think they're both capable of beating the very best. But I if I have one criticism, and I have given this thoughts to Diego himself, to Kelazur himself, is that I think he needs to lean heavier on his strengths and his aggression, and look to close out games a little bit sooner, because that's usually what his build orders are geared to do, right? Like, he's again a very aggressive player, but sometimes he's okay or seemingly okay going to the late game, and that's where he gets fucked by someone like Snoot, for example, right? Because his build order is not accounting for, it's not ready to go into ghosts, not ready to go into whatever counters the late game tech that Snoot is choosing, for example. So I think if Diego can find his footing and oh,
this is like that CNN interview all over again.
Like pushing her in the face.
Get out of here. Go. Where's your mom?
She's so big now.
I know.
All right. But yeah, if Diego can find his footing and kind of, I think, lean on his strengths, I think he can make it out of this group. I think Hero's the favorite. He's also obviously my boy, so a little bit of bias there perhaps, but yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Hero first, Kelazur second.
That would be nice. I will agree that I definitely think that Kelazur is probably the most underrated foreigner going in, and that could be an advantage, right? Because you're the total, he's playing as the underdog, and then everyone obviously is discounting him, and so they may not be ready for what he has to offer.
Yeah, I see what you guys are saying. He's really good, but I don't think that this is his year I think that there's two players in the foreign scene I'm unbelievably excited to watch next year, and that's Kelliger and Time. I think both these guys haven't peaked yet, and they're both training really hard and just consistently improving. You can see it throughout the year. You just watch the games, you're like, wow, you're getting much better. I think he's outclassed at this BlizzCon. He definitely deserves to be there. Mm-hmm. But like, if he gets out of this group, I'm very impressed. I think that because he has to beat a Korean player to get out of the group.
Well, he's probably going to have the best science in the audience, so if that counts for anything.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, next year I can see Kelliger doing something. I can see him in Time just being like talked about like we talk about Cyril and Neeb right now. I think that can really happen. But looking at this group right now, I give Kelliger such a small chance to get out. I could see the Laser maybe making some upsets here. Possibly. ZVZ, he's quite good at, obviously. We've seen that plenty of times. His ZDP, he can definitely make that a bit volatile for Hero. And, just kind of being an aggressive player against an aggressive player, I feel like gives you some shots. Like, if you put Hero against a defensive foreign Zerg, I don't know, man. I'm not feeling that as much as against an aggressive foreign Zerg. Yeah. So I look at this group, and it's like, it's Dark and Hero. Like, almost 100% for me getting out of this group.
That's it seems like
speaking, yes.
Yes, logically speaking.
Pig, what do you think?
Sorry, I was just a little bit distracted there. I was just trying to get the event up on Team Liquid.
Oh, no problem.
Using my mod powers for good. This group is interesting. Let me just bring it up. So yeah, I basically just second what Dan was saying. Kelliger, I have seen grow from a player 2 years ago who not too many people knew about to someone who's incredible. I don't think he's quite there yet. If he made it out of this group, I would be very surprised. But I think, the fact that he's made it to this BlizzCon is a huge success. And I wouldn't completely count him out, but I'd say he has a pretty small chance. I think Kelliger is going from strength to strength. This has definitely been his big breakout year, and he's going to just keep getting better. I think a Laser has already shown last year with his top 4 that he is definitely a power to be reckoned with. And I think Laser is also the sort of player who thrives in a good practice environment. I feel like the better the players he's playing against, Laser gets stronger and stronger. I think his time in Korea will really benefit him a lot. So I think Laser definitely could take down either Hero or Dark. That being said, Dark is a beast. Hero's a psychopath. Hero's not afraid to just proxy all over the place. He's going to go Mass Oracle. And the last game, even though he didn't win, the last game of the Super Tournament was so impressive to me. To bring out a Pylon Rush in the final Game 7, to go into 2 Stargate Phoenix, like, these are all things that players are not in current practice against. It's not in the current meta. So playing against Hero for any of these guys is always going to be a nightmare. Hero is just a strange, creative, unique player, and he always makes it so difficult to play against him. So I definitely think Hero, I do give a big favorite here. I feel like he's been powering up throughout the year. I was a little bit burned back in IEM Katowice at the start of the year when I was like, Hero's going to win this tournament, and he got knocked out in the group stages pretty early. He didn't play, quite to his strengths, but I still feel like Hero's just getting better and better. And he's made Legacy of the Void his own game. He's shown more and more ability to back row, not just to go all in, to transition, to have so much flexibility in his play. So Hero is one of the players I'm very excited about here at BlizzCon.
Hero is like the Protoss Rogue almost, I think.
What was that, CatZ?
Yeah,
I feel like Hero's like much like the Protoss Rogue. Like, he just has an infinite bag of tricks. And he's a very adaptive player. He will see something, okay, I'm no longer doing that. Then he plays Protoss like a fucking Zerg. But
yeah, he does play Protoss like a Zerg. I like that assessment.
I love it. Yeah, I will add to what I said, that a Laser is to Dark as Special is to TY, kind of like a Laser has always looked up to Dark. A Laser has always copied Dark. So I can't help but to feel that Dark is the slightly better version of a Laser, and even if a Laser has equal or even better mechanics than Dark, I think that if you were to not have Kelazur somehow go first in this group, you would probably have Dark over Laser every time.
Right. It makes sense. Yeah, I mean it is what it is, right? Like you look at those two, and they're both super good in Dark and Hero. Hero, obviously is the smiling assassin. So like Pig said, he is just kind of a psychopath, and will just do, random things, and he just makes them work, right? Like he'll break out something where you're like, it's the one player that he's kind of like, you think you know what he's gonna do, right? Like Dan, you can probably. You probably know about this, like, right? Like, where you're, like, watching him play, and you're like, oh, he's probably going to do this. And then it's like, okay, I was completely wrong. It was nothing at all what I thought
he's
he was
super
doing.
hard to commentate. For that reason, I hope he falls out in groups. But, no, he's the most flexible Protoss. It's crazy what he can pull off.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that can be said for a Laser versus Hero in the first match is a Laser opens Overlord speed every game, so does Dark. So they're both going to be very scouting-oriented Zergs when they face Hero. So I think it's going to be harder for him to be quite as surprising. But as much as we could say, oh, that's good against Hero's style, because Hero does strange things, I feel like Hero has shown he can play against Overlord speed. The Zerg has to make a bit of an economic sacrifice. Hero's still going to have such a unique series of follow-up attacks anyway. So,
dude, if I was playing Hero, I would scout. And then whatever I scout, I would assume he's going to do the opposite of that shit. And then just, counter the opposite of what I scout. And then, of course, if he doesn't do the opposite of what I scout, I look like a fucking moron. It's like, what? Well, he fucking scouted Immortals, and he's
a lot of his games. A lot of his games look like that. Someone looks stupid and someone looks smart.
I feel like if every Zerg player should be doing like the Heart of the Swarm practice. You guys remember when every Zerg player searched every corner of the map with like 2 or 3 Zerglings throughout the first 5 minutes? And no one does that in Legacy of the Void anymore because pylons can't instantly warp in units. I feel like against Hero, you really want to be like, yeah, I've constantly got a couple Zerglings just roaming around and looking for those proxies and things, because he's very capable of throwing out all sorts of weird.
Yeah, but if you scout it, he'll fucking cancel it. And then you're fucking waiting for the proxy to show up. And then he's got 3 Nexuses instead. So it's like...
Okay, so the Group C, we'll move on then to our final group. In Group D, we have Innovation, True, Gumiho, and Serral. So 2 Terran, 2 Zerg. Dan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I do actually. Innovation and Serral are going to get out of this group, I think. I would think Innovation first because he's Innovation, but like Serral is super duper legit. I more than talk about those two and how good they are, because I think that's been done enough. The other 2 players, True and Gumiho, I'd rather talk about just a little bit. Like True beating Innovation seems like an impossible dream. Innovation will probably open with very safe builds like 4 Hellions and a Banshee into a 3rd command center, something like that, or a 3rd command center before the start. Like shit where he can scout everything True is doing. It's just it's so hard to imagine True taking out Innovation a best of 3 for me. He's so aggressive. I don't really see it too much. And then Gumiho Serral, I think that this is actually a good matchup for Serral. I think that Gumiho is like my spirit animal. I love his strategies. I love his brain. He is just such a sexy Terran for me. I love to watch him commentate, and he's great. But I think that like he's super peaked during his GSL win, and I don't think he's worse now, but I think everyone else is kind of have figured out a lot of the way that he plays, and he's, he was kind of always this guy that would die in the round of 16. And so that season when he like really peaked and was like, oh, look at me, I'm killing all the Zergs with this new like Thor drop Viking mech, right? No one was quite ready for this, so he had better results than he would have otherwise. But now people have figured that out. Everyone's been using his style of mech more. He still is strategically really strong and all, but Serral is very good against that type of play. Like, I think the first time I saw Gumiho go for that specific style of mech that he used to crush through that GSL season he won was, I think it was Take's Penthouse Party, like one of the ones a while ago. And Serral actually just cleaned him up when he was doing that. And I know that was early stages of what Gumiho was doing, but I feel pretty confident that Serral will take down Gumiho. And I do not feel too confident that True will take down Gumiho. It could occur because Gumiho does do more like mech-based opening stuff. Maybe there's like a Roach Ravager timing that he can hit or something. But I think that like for Serral not to get out of the group, maybe True has to beat Gumiho in the loser match and then beat Serral, right? Which could happen. That could go either way. True Serral, that's a pretty good CBZ match. But I don't think that'll happen. Like True could cause some upsets here to what I'm saying. That's the only way I really see it going otherwise. So yeah, Innovation Serral for me that's a pretty clear group for me, just like Group C.
Okay, I mean I think that's pretty interesting. I think I actually would have guessed that Gumi would be Gumiho Innovation. To be honest, just because they seem to go back and forth with him and Innovation, and I don't know, just as like we talked about, like his mech style as of late has just been so good so I'm a little bit surprised to hear you say it, but yeah, I don't know, Pig, what do you think? And yeah, I just updated TL, so it's showing the stream now.
Oh, my man. Awesome. Innovation is a beast. Yep. I do think maybe True could take down Gumiho, but he's playing Innovation first. So for True running into Innovation, it's a near impossible match there. Innovation is so crisp. I definitely do think, Inno goes through this group 100%. Gumi's been having a little bit of trouble recently. He lost actually 0-3 to a laser yesterday in an online tournament. And Serral, I feel like is a little bit of a stronger version than a laser right now. So hard to say. Of course, it is Zerg versus Terran. Overall, I think the reason why I rate Serral here a lot higher than Gumiho as well is Serral is just someone who's very mechanical, very strong. He's very powerful. What have been one of his big letdowns this year? It's been his Zerg versus Terran. It's because he practices in Europe. There's only a very limited pool of Terrans he plays against. Special took him out back in Austin at the start of the year when everyone was like, Serral is unbeatable. He won't lose to anyone. I think practicing in Korea is going to turn Serral into such a beast. I think, did I see he's already up to rank 2 on the Korean ladder?
Yeah. Literally rank 2.
He's going to be killing it. And I think as long as he's developed his Zerg versus Terran enough, which I think he will have, combined with what I was talking about earlier in the show.
He will have had to be round to be ranked 2, right? Like he has to have.
Yeah. He's going to be playing the Horsemen over and over again, right? Maru beyond Innovation.
Literally, yeah. Above him is Maru, below him is Innovation. So these are, and I mean, Gumiho has 2 accounts that are about top 10 right now. Like, yeah, man, he's playing top end Terrans and Zergs all day, and then probably plays against Stats and Zest once in a while.
He's going to beast mode it, man. Serral's making it out of this group 100%, especially against mech.
Damn. Okay, so you're 100% on Innovation and Serral. That is crazy for you bettors out there.
I think,
Jared, I'll take that back. Can we do a 50 sheet on that? American money, not that funny money that you use.
Okay, so yeah, I pretty much agree. Serral and Nee both, whenever I watch them play, and I know it's cliche because they're obviously perceived as the 2 best tourners, but whenever I watch them play, like the intricacies and like the level of detail that they operate under is just fucking brilliant. These 2 are just amazing, right? As far as Koreans go, like I'm equally surprised by the likes of Rogue or Hero or even Gumiho, even though I don't think Gumiho is as strong mechanically as Innovation. Like his decision making is out of this world, SST wise. But yeah, I kind of see Serral as a slightly better version of Snoot. Like he also is a macro oriented player, but with just absolutely brilliant fucking decision making. Like Serral and Neep are probably my 2 favorite players to watch. So yeah, I think it's obvious. Serral and Innovation looks like the 2 big favorites. That said, True can always upset. Gumiho obviously is, GSL champion. He can. Yeah, it's a fucking tough group, but it's difficult not to say Serral and Innovation, no less. As far as True is concerned, I fed him a couple of tricks there, that he might. But Yeah, it's difficult, man. I don't think. I don't see True making it out, regardless of that.
Yeah.
So probably Cyril and Innovation.
I think True will definitely have the hardest time out of everyone in the group to get out. So he'll definitely have his work cut out for him. But you know, he is in Korea practicing, so hopefully he's getting in some good practice matches. I'm not for sure where he's at on the Korean ladder right now, but you know, I'm sure he's trying his best to get there. Going back to Cyril Neeb, have you guys noticed how they also look alike?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, like I saw a picture of Cyril,
they're like brothers.
Yeah, I saw a picture of Neeb wearing Cyril's hat, and it was kind of like the snoot, the snoot probe thing. So it's kind of like, wait, who is this? Kind of got confused for a second. So, but yeah,
it's a cloning project put on by Blizzard to make foreigners be Koreans at BlizzCon.
Apparently, I don't know.
Covered it.
Base Trade TV practice house, more like Base Trade TV, like injection house. They're in there just getting genetically modified and stuff. Like, what's going on?
Cloning facility.
Yeah, everyone's going to Korea for the ladder practice. Sure.
All right. Well, I mean that pretty much brings us to the end of Group D. Then, so just an overall, I'd like to get you guys overall predictions for whom you think might make a deep run and maybe like a dark horse. So. Dan, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been saying since round 1 of Super Tournament, Rogue's going to take it. I stand by that. I think that he is a big favorite. But as I said, there are some guys who can upset him. You know, Innovation and TY were the guys I was really looking at going into BlizzCon this year until Rogue started to peak quite a bit, and the map pool got a little bit bigger overall, which I think helps. But yeah, so those are kind of like my 3 main guys right there that I'm looking at and watching to do well. Obviously, Hero and Dark I got to mention as well. So those are the big ones. As far as like some upsets that occur, like who's a dark horse here?
Yeah,
I'm pretty certain on groups B, C, D who's getting out of there. So I don't think that you can call Neeb and Cyril dark horses. They've been crushing Korean ladder. They're really respected, right? So my dark horse pick would have to be like a Snoot or a Special.
Okay.
Because again, going back to Group A, I find that one really, really difficult to predict exactly who's going to come out of there. And if either of them come out of there, they're in super top form because that group is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if they get the right matchups, I can see them going quite deep indeed. Like both of those guys I know can take out most of these players here if they're playing well. So I guess those are my 2 dark horses, even though I predicted both not to make it out of groups. So I know that sounds weird, but there you go.
No, it doesn't. If we were to break it up by percentages, like you would put TY at what, like a 40% chance to make it out of the group, whereas Pig will put fucking Innovation and Cyril at 100%. So like there you have it, right? Like it's like TY is our prediction to make it out first, but it's still not like he may not make it out. This is just a difficult group. So I agree with you on that, except that Kilosaur is gonna win the whole tournament. So
ooh, I would love that, man. That would be.
I would love it too. Yeah, probably not gonna happen, but I really hope he makes it out of the group. So that's gonna be my dark horse pick.
Okay.
And to win the whole thing, I'm gonna go with Rogue, Cyril, Neeb, or Innovation. Those are Hero.
Edging your bets a little bit there.
My fucking boy Hero.
Yeah, you're kind of all over the place with that.
Yeah. It's just impossible, man. I've had too much soju.
Well, I mean, it's hard to pick when there's so many great players. It's really hard to like even narrow.
They're all fucking
sometimes.
great, man. Anyone could win.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone can win this tournament. I don't agree with that at all. I find it very hard to create a bracket of any type where a few of these players win the tournament.
Okay, could Dark win this tournament then?
Yes.
Could Sue win this tournament?
Yeah.
I'm so heartbroken to say no. This is the greatest storyline, though. If he wins, there's nothing better than a Sue victory. That is actually as good as a foreigner victory because of how many second places he's got. To see him rise from those ashes and then after that punching article he wrote.
Plus, you just said this, so like the Reddit clip would start with something like, "I'm so heartbroken to say no. Artosis curse, fucking just run with it,"
Once again, yeah.
Counter Artosis curse.
Yeah. yeah, I mean, I think that it's a few standouts that are very likely to win this tournament. Like, for instance, as much as I just completely adore Stats, I have a hard time seeing him actually winning BlizzCon. Top 4, I don't have much of a problem, but eventually he's going to hit, like, Innovation, TY, Rogue, something like that, or Hero. And I'm like, are you actually going to take them out? Like, with as good as you are you... I mean, he's done
I also don't see TY winning, even though TY is, like, an amazing player. I think that as long as TY has time to prepare for his opponents, he will be amazing. But I think that there's better, like, past the round of 16, there's players that are just, like, way more adaptive or way more entrenched and happy with their play style already being adaptive, such as Rogue and Hero. So,
like,
so you have to give those players an edge.
A lot of TY's strengths, like his decision making and stuff, actually might even hinder him against someone like Hero. Because TY will be doing the right thing against what he scouted, and Hero has 3 nexuses, like you said. It's like, oh no!
Pig, what do you think?
You guys have chosen some great underdogs to be different. And there is a bit, I have a bit of hope that Nurtuo is going to rise up and knock some faces out in the group stage. So I think Nurtuo might surprise us with some really good Zerg versus Zerg. I'm hoping he does. I still think Group B is a bit of a wild card group because of the way Zerg vs Zerg plays out in best of 3s. And just with, how Neeb chooses to play and how well these Zergs deal with it. So I do think, Group B is the other group that I have my eye on in terms of what's going to happen there.
That's
going to definitely beat Rogue. It's going to be action-packed. I know a lot of people's eyes glaze over at the thought of 3 Zergs in a group, and they go,
yeah, people fucking hate on CVC. CVC is such a fucking beautiful matchup, guys. Like, it's a matchup where it's so easy to determine, like, what advantages the players are trying to leverage, and it's kind of easy for the players to determine what advantages they have. So I feel like CVC is, like, a great ground matchup to, like, try to learn the game and like what advantages you're leaning on, right? Like that be tech or economy or army. Like it's kind of glaring in CVC, and a lot of the time, people are like, CVC fucking Zergling versus Baneling, but it's such a beautiful matchup to watch for me. So I'm really excited for Group B as well.
Especially if we get a Rogue versus Dark game at some point down the line. Those 2 sort of guys playing, that's where you get really like technical mid-game and late-game CVZ. So, I think Group B will be really cool. Favorite to win it all? I'm a gambling man. I'm going to go with Hero. I think Hero is he's aggressive, he's crazy.
That's the easy fucking pick, dude. That's like the... Are you kidding?
The root gaming.
Be able to take down Kelliger, CatZ. That's my question.
Well, if Hero can take down Kelliger, then
he wins.
He wins.
He's a shoo-in.
I mean, obviously, my opinion doesn't matter as much as you guys, but my dark horse and my favorite to win are the same person. I believe in Sue. I think
cool.
I've got all my eggs in one basket. And I think that now is his time to shine. Like, he's been kicked so many times while he's down, and he's had so many of these goddamn second place memes that he's just done, and it's time to win.
You know what? We were talking about Sue when I was streaming the other day, and one of my mods pointed out a figure, because I was talking about the difference between first and second prize in Korean tournaments like GSL and how drastic that is. And he calculated that if Sue won every tournament, it would have gone from something like, I think, $75,000 or $80,000 in winnings to almost $300,000 if all of those second places were first places. So for Sue to win BlizzCon and get the huge prize pool we have this year would be so sick for him.
It would be a fantastic story, and it's not a particularly unlikely story. The problem is Group B is like the group of death if you remove Nurtuo.
But if he can get out,
they're all groups of death.
Then I think that he can do it.
He can make a run. Like, if you look at right now, his ZVT is supposed to be his weakest by far right now. You look at the Terrans that are actually going to get out of their groups. He's going to have innovation based on our predictions. That would be the only matchup that you'd have to look at and be like, ooh, that's very, very tough. And I mean, it's not like he can't fix his ZVT before BlizzCon as well. 3 weeks of practice. I mean, he's got plenty of odds from Rogue to study. So, I mean, he definitely there's potential there if Sue can pull it together. I mean, that would be amazing. But here's the question: who do you cheer for if it's a Neeb Sue finals? What do you even do about that?
I just cheer for both.
I actually don't know. Like, they're both such great storylines, aren't they?
I just hope Game 7 there's a tie and then the electricity goes out and we're like, we can't figure out who wins. It's a double champion.
Yeah.
Just make them arm wrestle for it. Rock, paper, scissors.
That would be good.
Mike Moran brings the second trophy out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you want Neeb. Neeb is the only American, so it's gonna get the best reaction out of the crowd if he wins. You gotta, if you're looking for who is it best to win, like, for the game, it's probably Neeb, but Sue is a close second.
Yeah.
Of course, always second, man. You guys are cool.
He's always a close second.
I'm with Toast, man. I want Sue winning.
Dude, CatZ with the unintentional pun, man. Fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that was all done.
But no, so yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be a lit tournament. I mean, here we are at the finals. I mean, no matter what, all these games are going to be the best, of the year. It's the best players coming all together, so it's going to be hype. We're in a new arena, right? We're in Exhibit Hall A this year instead of the arena, but they've got some plans for it, is what I've heard, and they're gonna try to build us a pretty nice stage.
If you've been to BlizzCon before, like, all the stages are fucking unbelievably gorgeous. So.
Yeah, it's just honest. The Hearthstone stage is better than the Arena StarCraft stage. As nice as the Arena StarCraft stage is and how epic it is.
The Hearthstone stage is so beautiful. Yeah.
A lot of people were like complaining, weren't they? When I kind of stayed off Reddit. I've been kind of busy this week.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, I was personally sad as well. We weren't in the arena anymore, but it's not like, it's pretty fucking obvious, right? Like, Overwatch is their big push. Overwatch is like one of the biggest games in the world. Overwatch is trying to sell all this shit that StarCraft isn't trying to sell, and StarCraft is about the prestige, right? It's like the most important, the most skill based maybe game in the world. That's
maybe.
Yeah, but probably, right?
Definitely, 100%, as PiG would say.
Prestige goes, 100%.
We're gonna go with 97. All right, guys.
Blizzard, let's do that. I think, that's what Blizzard cares about, and I wouldn't be surprised to see StarCraft go back to the arena, in a year, and 2 years, and 5 years. But I'm pretty fucking fine not being in the arena. Obviously, I'm sad that we're not, but if I was Blizzard, I would have done that like 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Overwatch, they're putting so much money into, they got to make that work. So, I mean, take the arena, try it. I want Blizzard to succeid. I want Overwatch to succeed. I mean, I'm not going to watch Shiny Game X, but I'll watch StarCraft wherever. People are complaining about production value or something, and it's like, no, look at GSL Super Tournament, right? That final day was some of the best StarCraft I've ever seen. Is one person saying, like, you know what? I just wish the production value was higher. I wish they were at an outdoor venue. That was literally no one said that ever, right? It's like, it's about the quality of the games, and it always has been in StarCraft. And everyone else can have shinier shit. We can downgrade more. We can do this in a high school gym like the Han Finals, okay? And it's still going to be better games than everything else, okay? Yeah. It's just, I mean, if you're still here watching StarCraft at this point, then you love StarCraft, man. So just chill. It doesn't matter if Blizzard gives us the big stage or the small stage, or like it's whatever. If we got all the players there, it's a live environment. That's what matters.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better.
I bet you when Google finishes the AI that's ready to compete with fucking our innovation AI, then we'll probably get the big stadium again.
That's we're not too far off of that. I don't know. We had a conversation about this once before, CatZ, about the AI and I don't know. Let's take a 2-second, to dive into this real quick. What do you guys think? Like, because CatZ, we kind of agreed, like, they have to limit it somewhat. Like, it can't have unlimited APM,
right?
And it can't like hack the game. Like it can't like read into it, right? And like
right,
know where
it has to have
from.
fog of war, right? Like it has to have the information that it gathers, and it has to and it can't have like an inhuman APM, because otherwise it's just an unfair battle, I think.
Right.
So yeah, I think give that AI fucking hero, the AI scout something, then it's gonna get fucked.
Well, it just matters when they release it. Over the course of infinity, AI beats us at everything always.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like when they release the first one, they think it can play. Maybe it'll destroy 7-0, or maybe it'll lose 0-7. But like, you give it another year, and then it'll never lose again. And that's just how it'll be. It'll be like the chess supercomputers, right? It'll be like the AlphaGo and stuff. It's
sure.
Maybe.
And then we're just watching.
Well, I mean, eventually over time. I mean, there could be a nuclear war and human civilization gets put back, but eventually AI will win everything.
It has to look into algorithms, right? Though, right? Like so, like if you just tell Hero do the exact opposite of what you were planning to do with the AI because the AI has studied you, and he does, then I don't see how the AI wins. Like maybe
then the AI will learn from that, right?
That's true.
Then what do you do game
and
2?
And the next time you tell
And it's not, but the game isn't rock, paper, scissors anyway. So, right, other things are going to happen. Suddenly, him canceling a shrine or something, like he's canceling a Twilight, computer's going to win, man. You just lost me fast right there. Over time, you can't stop AI. It's going to take over.
Dude, this is going to be Skynet all over again. It's not going to be good. This AI is going to get out of
all over again.
Yeah, dude, it's going to get out of. It's going to get out.
Yeah,
of
I hated that first war, man. That was so rough. God, I don't want to have to live through that again.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Okay, well, we've gone off the rails at this point. But yeah, obviously I'm hyped. Let's just get some closing words. Dan, do you have anything else to add on to the conversation we've had thus far?
Everyone should watch BlizzCon. It's going to be fun. Thank you for making this show. It's been fun as well. Yeah, I don't know. StarCraft is in a good place. I'm looking forward to seeing how the new crazy patch is going to change everything. Yeah, I'm looking forward to these BlizzCon games. I think it's going to be sick. And yeah, I don't know. Everyone stop complaining on Twitter about fucking balance and go practice more for next year, okay? They've already announced there's going to be a bunch of shit next year. There's going to be WCS and Korea and all this. So instead of using our time complaining about oracles or complain about swarm hosts or whatever, let's go out, figure out some new moves, try hard, practice hard, the game's hard. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. Thank you.
And watch ASL.
Oh, yeah, ASL's tonight. Watch that. Yeah.
There we go.
I'll tweet about it. It's in like 6.5 hours.
Perfect. Pig, any final words?
No, just thanks for doing the show. Thanks for having us on. It's always fun to share some thoughts with you guys and hear some of your opinions. So yeah, BlizzCon's going to be a blast. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be cool to see who jumps ship when they announce Warcraft 4. Just kidding. In 2023 when that actually happens.
Yeah, in 2023.
So I think it's going to be a cool BlizzCon. I'm excited for it. I think I'm very curious to see what the new stage is like. I think it's going to be pretty badass. It's going to be great. Thanks for having me on, and let's all enjoy an awesome BlizzCon.
Perfect. CatZ?
Same thing as everyone else. If you're coming to BlizzCon, we have 2 players there for Root Gaming, so bring your cheerfuls and yeah, fucking sit next to us or something so that we can all fucking root for Kalasur and Hero, who are obviously number 1 and number 2 favorites to win the whole thing. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
And yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Again, you guys, thank you for joining me for the show. Appreciate all of you. Maybe we'll do this again for the balance once the big balance patch hits. Maybe we'll get another group together to do another in-depth kind of look at that, a dive in, once we kind of figure out what's what. But yeah, appreciate everyone who tuned into the show tonight. Thank you for watching. Dan, thank you for hosting, and Pig for giving the host for the show as well. If you've never seen this show before, I am live once a week with my co-host Seeker. We do a lot of interviews with Korean players, with other pros from around the scene, once per week. So if this is something that you really enjoyed, hit that follow button. subscribe if you'd like to support it, send a donation, whatever you'd like to do. It all helps. But no matter what, I appreciate you just watching tonight. We'll be live again next week. And
you have VODs of those on YouTube too, right?
Yeah,
you just had an episode.
Yep, YouTube/DangShrine, and then you can get all the VODs. We are up to episode 54 now. Was with Sue. So
and they're the best interviews of Korean players out there right now. Just so everyone knows,
they're pretty much the only ones for the most part.
Hey, I'm trying to help you here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yep. Shout out to the donor who was Star-Lord, that's the alias that they use for the 50 sheet. Appreciate that. So obviously a pig reference. But I also do have kind of a controversial announcement to make.
Oh shit.
So at some point next year, me and Seeker do have plans on going to Korea and trying to interview Life and finding out firsthand what happened. So I don't know. It's just something I feel like it needs to be done, and I feel like going there in person is really the only way to do it. I feel like doing it over the internet like this just isn't the right way to do it. So
what happened? What happened to what? Could you be more specific?
What?
What happened to what?
What happened to Life?
Oh damn, that's deep, man. What happened to Life?
Yeah,
by Toast.
What even is Life?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if you can pull that off.
Yeah, obviously it's something that's going to be you think he wouldn't want to talk about it, but at the same time, like, what does he have to lose at this point? Nothing.
Like, you have to interview Xavier as well.
Get your story out there. Wasn't there a Xavier interview?
Was there?
You had a Savior interview?
I didn't. No, I didn't. What didn't I?
Oh, while you're out there, I mean,
you know what? Yeah, you
it
just
feeds into the same storyline, right?
Simulus, let's just get it done. So,
all right.
But again, thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you at BlizzCon. So appreciate it, and watch ASL tonight.
All right.
Cheers.
See you guys.